As always, top story brought to you by Vodafone. And in case you lost track, it's the 7th of February 2023. That's the close of business today. That means the voluntary domestic debt exchange program is closed. Bondholders were given a choice to voluntarily participate in the program or be left to their fate upon expiration of the deadline for the program. Well, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta addressed the nation last night, reiterated amended terms of the agreement, stressing that it is the best government can do under the current economic conditions. While individual bondholders and pensioners were hoping in the last minute push to get the minister to exempt them totally from the program, but that didn't happen. Yes, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta urging all to sign on to secure a deal with the IMF and also restore the nation's macroeconomic stability.
It is a critical step to restore macroeconomic stability, accelerate Ghana's economic growth under an IMF program, and leverage other international financial support. Government 1 expects the full participation of institutional stakeholders and mobilization of all qualified investors to ensure the success of the debt exchange operation. And 2 encourages eligible individual holders to voluntarily tender their holdings. Frankly, non-participation or a lower than expected turnout for the DDEP will prolong efforts to resolve the current economic crisis. In addition, the prospects of international financial support and other financial assurances will be jeopardized. The development could further put strain and stress on government's capacity to honor key commitments. This is not what we want for our economy. What we want is an economy that is back on track, stable, vibrant, productive, dynamic, meeting the needs of individuals, households, and enterprises, delivering shared and inclusive growth and improving incomes and livelihoods. Let me restate that as a government, our singular motivation for taking this rather difficult road is to restore macroeconomic stability, achieve debt sustainability, and get the economy fully back on track.
Well, that's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in an address last night. Upon expiration, we'll get an understanding with Joy Business editor George Riafe, who's joined us in studio as well. We know that insurers, bankers association, all of them locked up currently in a meeting as it expires. We'll talk about it shortly. But this particular reason has been given by the Finance Minister for the minorities untenable. Well, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbing has directed him to put details of the domestic debt exchange program before the House for further consideration and brief MPs on the matter as well. We'll get to hear from the Speaker shortly, but first, listen to MP for North Tongue, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, and MP for Boko Central, Mahama Yariga, who raised the matter on the floor, insisting Parliament must approve of the details of the exchange program before implementation.
During the break, I joined the majority leader, the current minority leader, who was then ranking member of the Finance Committee, to receive a petition from the Association of Individual Bondholders. I am quite disappointed that the business arranged for this week does not feature the Finance Minister. The Finance Minister will have to appear before this House. And right on our Speaker, I appeal to you respectfully to instruct that the Minister for Finance appears before us so that we can have a full briefing, we can debate this matter.
The duty of the Finance Minister is not simply to engage this House. So, Speaker, Article 181, Clause 3 of our Constitution is clear that this is borrowing on behalf of the state. And Sections 55 and 56 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016 is also very clear that this is borrowing on behalf of the state. The terms and conditions of the borrowing ordinarily must be laid before this House and must be approved by a resolution of this House. And the Minister has gone ahead to go and define his own terms and conditions of borrowing and is out there negotiating with the bondholders terms and conditions that have not been approved by this House.
Well, so that's what transpired in Parliament. You had a North Tongue MP and Boku Central MP, Mahama Yariga. Shortly, I'll be interacting with the North Tongue MP, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, who first raised the issue on the floor of Parliament. But first, let's get a better understanding of what transpired with our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, who joins us on the line as well. So, Kweku, let's talk about this particular interaction that went down. I know that the Deputy Finance Minister has been providing some response. Let's talk about the entire debate around this domestic debt exchange program.
So, Emefa, right after the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomakin, presented the business statement of the week, it was then that Honorable Ablakwa, Honorable Mahama Yariga, Dafamepo raised these concerns. The Deputy Minister came in quite hard, explaining that they put the debt exchange program in the 2023 budget, and Parliament approved the broad policy. Of course, we have been trying to reach Parliament, but Parliament had been on recess at the time. And now that Parliament is back, they will find some time and come to Parliament. But she insisted that the scenario should not be created as though government is evading accountability and government does not want to come to Parliament.
Well, we'll get to hear from her shortly, but that reason that she gave about Parliament approving that broad policy, which includes this particular domestic debt exchange program, how did Parliament take that particular submission from the Deputy Finance Minister?
Clearly, the minority side did not find that explanation tenable. Indeed, they went on and on. A number of MPs went on their feet to raise concerns that Parliament as an institution should not be sidelined. Indeed, the finance minister should not be going ahead, meeting all these institutions, talking about modalities and asking them to accept or not accept when Parliament itself had not been properly briefed and a decision taken on that. The Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomakin, sought to explain that the explanation that had been provided by the Deputy Minister was quite reasonable and that should have been the case. And because the debt exchange program had been put before Parliament through the 2023 budget just by way of the policy, government necessarily do not need to come to Parliament, but the minority side, led by Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa, were not happy and asked the Speaker to make the Finance Minister appear before the House as soon as practicable.
Well, we'll get to hear the directive of the Speaker as well. Kweku, thank you so much. There are other issues happening in Parliament that we'll interrogate further with you subsequently. That's on Newsnight. But let's hear the Deputy Finance Minister, Abna Osiasare's response to the concerns raised by the MPs.
In the budget of 2023, we mentioned, this House approved that policy, that we were going to come up with a domestic debt exchange. And Mr. Speaker, based on the budget that was approved, Parliament gave us permission to spend compensation to a certain tune. And it's the same with our borrowings to a certain tune. And then capital expenditure as well as goods and services. And for my friend on the other side to say that we are now going to borrow, these are funds that were approved for us to utilize previously. And government is saying, I'm engaging with you to make sure that due to the conditions in which I find myself now, I will not be able to discharge what initially I had agreed with you. And Mr. Speaker, let me put it on record that the pension funds are not part of this exercise that we are doing. Just to correct my friend on the other side, pension funds are not part of the exercise that we are engaging now. Mr. Speaker, they are not part of it. All these various bondholders, we have been able to engage them. We did it with the banks, we did it with the insurance companies, and I know that last week when we met the business committee of the House, the leadership of the House, we mentioned that once Parliament comes through, we will come and brief the House on how far and the steps that we have taken to get to where we are. So, Mr. Speaker, Parliament was on recess. Parliament went on the 23rd. Parliament has just resumed. And we mentioned it last week when we met the House, the leadership, that this is what we intend to do, to come and brief the House. So I think my brothers on the other side are jumping the gun. A little patience. And let's not muddy the waters out there, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's not muddy the waters out there. We have done the engagement. Yes, it is true that we haven't been able to engage Parliament, but Mr. Speaker, we sounded the call to Parliament.
Well, so that's the Deputy Finance Minister, Abena Osei-Asare. Despite this explanation that she put forward, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbing, went on to direct Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to cause to be laid the details of the program before the House and make a presentation on same to MPs. Listen.
Honorable members, my understanding is that both sides agree that the minister be scheduled to come and brief the House, policy statements and some details about the debt arrangements. Parliament is ever prepared to assist government to get out of this quagmire. And so what I can say now is that, like the church says, Roma locuta, causa finita est. Parliament has spoken, and that is the end of the case. The minister be scheduled by the business committee as early as possible, because this is an urgent matter. If the pensioners are picketing at the ministry, we need to do this as quickly as possible. I can say that by Tuesday next week. This week is quite packed, and so Tuesday next week will be appropriate. Even though we have some business to on Tuesday, I insist that it should be on Tuesday. We'll have to find time for the minister, because this is a very urgent matter, particularly dealing with elderly people. We have to find time for the minister to give us a brief.
Bringing the North Tongue MP, Samuel Okujetu Ablakwa, one of the MPs that actually raised this particular issue on the floor of Parliament once they resumed the debt exchange program. As we speak, that voluntary domestic debt exchange program has expired. We'll be talking about the pensioner bondholders also. It was day 2 of their picketing. My colleague was there. But let me bring in the North Tongue MP, Mr. Okujetu Ablakwa. We're grateful for your time here on Top Story. So we've been hearing the concerns that you've been raising, but listening to the Deputy Finance Minister, this is a broad policy that was part of the 2023 budget, duly approved by Parliament. How then are you now asking or instructing that the Finance Minister comes back to give you further explanation to a document that you have approved?
Well, good evening. Let me state for the record that Parliament has not approved the domestic debt exchange program. In the 2023 budget, the Finance Minister hinted at the whole arrangement and said at paragraph 278, page 71 of the 2023 budget, I quote verbatim, Mr. Speaker, the details of the debt operation program will be announced soon to the public and the investor community after the necessary engagements with all relevant stakeholders. Unquote. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta's own words, paragraph 278. So at the time the 2023 budget was being presented to the House, the domestic debt exchange program was not ready. The Finance Minister said he was going to engage stakeholders. Stakeholders must include Parliament necessarily. And this program, after the stakeholder engagement, must be laid before the House for deliberations, for debate. It has to be approved by the House before they proceed to execute this program. This has not been done.
Well,
and so,
Mr. Ablakwa, just quickly for some clarity, just for clarity, Mr. Ablakwa, is it not the practice that Parliament approves the broad policy, government then goes to do the implementation, comes back to brief Parliament on what it is that it's done with the broad policy that you approved?
Where you will need parliamentary approval, after the broad policy has been approved that go and engage, you must include Parliament in that engagement. That's the point we are making. Parliament should be central in that engagement. Parliament has been left out. Now, after you have done the engagement, which must include Parliament, when you finalize the program, you put together what, in your view, should be an acceptable program, you lay it before the House, and the House will debate it, and then you have the final stamp of approval to execute. That has not been done. And if you listen to the Deputy Minister for Finance carefully, she concedes that they know they must return to Parliament and they must seek parliamentary approval before going into execution. So really, I do not see what a bone of contention is. Remember that during the break, we received petitions from the individual bondholders. As MPs, we have been inundated, legitimately so, by our constituents who are affected. As we speak, as I said on the floor of the House today, our senior citizens, look, any society that cannot protect its senior citizens who have paid their due, who have worked hard for decades to help in national reconstruction. As we speak, our senior citizens are picketing at the Ministry of Finance. We cannot, as their representatives, pretend not to know that this whole domestic debt exchange program has created considerable turbulence, anxiety, pain. As we speak, there's anguish in the land. People's lives are at stake, livelihoods are at stake, life savings are at stake. It is the most important issue in Ghana today, and Parliament cannot abdicate, and the Ministry of Finance cannot continue to run away from Parliament. They must bring this program to Parliament. Parliament must be part of the deliberations. We have input to make. We have received concerns from our constituents who want to be exempted, who don't want to be part of this. In any case, this mess has been created by a finance minister and a government that refuse to listen. So we cannot continue to just allow them to just, tip us over into the abyss. That is why we insist that Parliament is not going to abdicate. We insist on doing our work, and the finance minister must appear before us. So I commend the Right Honourable Speaker for ruling very firmly that the finance minister has a week. Latest by Tuesday, he must appear before Parliament, and we must know what this whole domestic debt exchange program is about.
Well, the insistence then for Parliament, or the minority for that matter, is that Parliament remains a key stakeholder in this whole domestic debt exchange program, and not just the bondholders or the other participants, you say?
Absolutely. Parliament is the citadel of democracy. If you,
but how then does key stakeholders, Mr. Ablakwa, how then does key stakeholders like Parliament, after you received petitions amongst others, stay on, wait till you resume on the day of the deadline, now issuing instructions for the finance minister to follow?
We have been on recess. We only resumed today, and we have acted with dispatch. As soon as we resume, this is the first matter we are raising. When the business statement for the week was presented by the Deputy Majority Leader, and this did not find expression, we rose and said, this cannot be possible. We will be derelicting and really disappointing the Ghanaian people if this matter does not receive urgent attention. So this is the first day of parliamentary business for this session, and we have not abdicated at all. We have raised the matter. And if you look at the literature in Jamaica, in Greece, their parliaments were involved. They were central, and they carried the entire nation. It was a democratic process. It was not something that was just hatched and cooked in one ministry and it was lorded over the people. That is why this program is not working, and the finance ministry is not getting the buy-in of the Ghanaian people, because they have not been democratic, they have not been transparent, and there has been no sense of inclusivity, engaging the entire Ghanaian people, and we are not going to allow that to continue.
Okay. Well, we are grateful for your time. That's a North Tongue MP, Samuel Okujetua Ablakwa, one of the MPs who raised this particular issue on the floor of Parliament. And the Speaker has since directed that the Finance Minister ought to appear before the House on Tuesday to offer further explanation and put the document before Parliament for scrutiny and further questions on it. What really does this mean, knowing that the deadline is today for the domestic debt exchange program? We've been hearing from the Finance finance minister on this. But one particular group that is not relenting in this fight is the pensioner bondholders. Well, they've been on the streets today. No, they've been at the premises of the finance ministry. James Aveji is there. But on the close of deadline, George Riafe is with me in the studio. He's been monitoring this. He's seen this all through for some time now, and will give us some updates in terms of what then happens, knowing that it's close of business. I'm sure many banks have closed now, so it's close of business, officially close of business. Yeah. And what are we learning? What then happens after this?
What we and Emefa, this is just try to draw the linkage between what is happening right now to an initial public offering by a company trying to go public and list on the Ghana Stock Exchange. So this offer might have ended, but the ministry stated that they're going to do the settlement on February 14, that is next week, Tuesday, if I am right. So what we are picking up is that
same day Parliament is asking for the finance minister
to appear before it. So what we understand that some of the major banks have actually participated in this offer, and that has implications on whether this will be successful or not. You also have the institutional investors coming on board. And if another interesting thing is that you've had a large number of individual bondholders also participating in this offer as well. Mm-hmm. If the numbers from what they are picking up from those who are working on this, it appears they are likely to hit their 80% target based on the participation of these major banks. The Bank of Ghana is going to come on board as well. The institutional investors are coming on board. And from these initial numbers, even in any public offering, you can look at the initial numbers and do your extrapolations, because they need about 3 days to do what they call mopping up, or 2 days to do the mopping up. And that will give them the fine details. But looking at what they are picking up, the major banks are on board, institutional investors are on board, the securities industry are on board, the insurance firms are also on board, and also some of the individual bondholders have signed up to participate in this offer. And it looks like they are likely to hit their target. And if even though the thing has ended today, we will get the final results next week, Tuesday, because then we'll be able to get fine details of the allotment. Those who are, even though an offer closes, you still want to be, the administrative process are still going on. And that's why you might use 2 extra days or 3 days to do what they call the mopping up. So from what we've picked up, it looks like these major banks are on board. And it is likely that government might hit its target based on the initial numbers that they've picked up. Don't forget, this is electronic, so it wasn't just the manual thing that it may take that long. So the initial numbers might give you an indication that, this person is coming on board. This other group is putting together their documentations and all the rest, and we are likely to get the target that they are looking for. Okay,
George Riafe will come up later with more on this. Thank you very much, George, there. But we've been, just before we came on air, we've been trying to reach the Ghana Association of Bankers, the insurers, amongst others, and they all tell us they are up in meetings trying to finalize this particular arrangement. But one group that will not stop till it's done, it's all done, then they say, if you want us to go home and die, tell us. And that's the cry of over 500 individual pension bondholders as they intensify their call for a total exemption. For them, it is not too late to exempt them from the domestic debt exchange program. Day 1 was yesterday, and today is day 2. And James Aveji has been with them throughout, and he joins me in studio for a quick chat on day 2. Yesterday, they got the finance minister to come out and meet them. We heard the passionate plea that they put across. He wanted to hear from them. But today is day 2. Tell us what exactly transpired.
Okay, so today being day 2, the charge they have added to their call was to prepare a solemn atmosphere with a singing and chanting of series of patriotic songs in the morning. They do this, they plan to do this from 10 to 11 a.m. And so they started with a chanting of series of patriotic songs and some choral music, telling the Ministry of Finance as well as government that all that they want is to be totally exempted from the debt exchange program. Now, one of them says that they are where they are today because the finance ministry has allegedly smuggled a clause into the second debt exchange program bill that they presented to Parliament, which has granted them what they are doing, and that is exactly what is preventing them from having an equal say on the table as far as the terms for this exchange program is concerned.
I want to draw attention that about 4 years ago, during the banking restructuring, several of our people died. They died out of poverty because what they planned is not what came to be. So blood was shed. Now, as we stand here, we represent a section of the whole society. In 1948, it was soldiers. But here, as we stand, farmers, fishermen, soldiers, lawyers, Macaulay women, economists, every group within the sector of the society. We are here and we are veterans. Why are some of us, even as we speak, because of desperation, fear, having strokes and some dying, blood is still being shed?
There is a clause that states categorically that the Republic of Ghana, of course, through the Ministry of Finance, reserve the right to amend the coupon, to extend the maturity date. And this is not acceptable. The laws of Ghana per the Pension Act says that the main purpose is to ensure pension income security, assuming without admitting that I even go to this new bond. You are saying that you can change the coupon at your own discretion without resorting to me. You can extend the date, the maturity date, without resorting to me. You can change all the commercial terms. And this you would not want it to come to the public.
Thank you, James Aveji, and then you'll be following them through it. But let's bring in convener of the individual pensions bondholders, and Dr. Anani Entry joins us on the phone. We're grateful.
Bondholders.
Thank you very much for your time.
Bondholders Forum.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Too.
Thank you. So today, unfortunately, you did not get the attention of the finance minister. His deadline today. What really then happens?
Well, we don't have any problem whether it is a deadline or no deadline. Deadline or no deadline, we are asking to be exempted. And so tomorrow we are going back to the police. We have served notice to the police that we will be there every working day until our demand is met. Once we get people to be there, we shall be there. So the only thing we are praying for is the strength to be able to wake up in the morning and be able to get there. That is all that we are praying God for.
And I heard you say earlier that if you want us to go home and die, just tell us. Please tell me that after you've been picketing, behind the scenes, beyond what we saw, that interaction with the finance minister,
somebody,
have you
for
been
example,
reached out to?
If I read somebody who is in Kukodia, he comes to Accra for dialysis Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It is not government that is paying for that poor old man. He's paying for it from the income he gets from his investment. If you deprive him of that income or you reduce it, how is he going to manage to fund the dialysis that he's doing every 3 days? Dialysis, like any medicine, is not like food that you say, oh, if I didn't get all my money, I will reduce the intake of my kinky from 2 balls to 1 ball. Or if I buy kinky, I won't buy fish because my money has my resources. It's not there. You cannot say I don't have the money, so the dialysis I'll go once every week instead of the 3 right every week. Mm-hmm. Once that happens, you are going to die because it is the 3 times that is sustaining you, that is making you live. Anything short of that, you are being pushed to your grave. So that's why I'm saying once you disturb the income flow of pensioners, which they are using to take care of their health needs, You are pushing them to their grave.
Dr. Edwana Nientri, we are hoping that that does not happen. We are grateful for your time, and they are serving notice that they will continue till they are told something favorable in terms of the total exemption that they are calling for. This has been Top Story, brought to you by Vodafone. Newsnight starts right after this.